The Lithuanian litas or litų cubed was the currency of Lithuania, until January 1, 2015, when it was replaced by the euro. It was divided into 100 centų cubed. The litas was first introduced on October 2, 1922 after World War I, when Lithuania declared independence, and was reintroduced on June 25, 1993, following a period of currency exchange from the ruble to the litas with the temporary talonas then in place. The name was modeled after the name of the country. From 1994 to 2002, the litas was pegged to the US dollar at the rate of 4-1. The litas was pegged to the euro at the rate of 3.4528-1 since 2002. The euro was expected to replace the litas by January 1, 2007, but persistent high inflation and the economic crisis delayed the switch. On January 1, 2015, the litas were switched to the euro at the rate of 3.4528-1. First litas, 1922 a euro 1941. History The first litas was introduced on October 2, 1922, replacing the Ostmark and Ostruble, both of which had been issued by the occupying German forces during World War I. The Ostmark was known as the auksinas in Lithuania. The litas was established at a value of 10 litas equals $1 and was subdivided into 100 centų cubed. In the face of worldwide economic depression, the litas appeared to be quite a strong and stable currency, reflecting the negligible influence of the depression on the Lithuanian economy. 1 litas was covered by 0.150462 grams of gold stored by the Bank of Lithuania in foreign countries. In March 1923, the circulation amounted to 39,412,984 litai, backed by 15,738,964 in actual gold and by 24 million in high exchange securities. It was required that at least one-third of the total circulation would be covered by gold and the rest by other assets. By 1938, $1 was worth about 5.9 litai, falling to about 20 US cents before its disappearance in 1941. Memorgibiet, in March 1939 Nazi Germany demanded that Lithuania give up the Klaipėda region, which had been detached from Germany after World War I. The Lithuanian government complied, and on March 23, 1939 the area was annexed by Germany. On the same day the Reichsmark replaced the litas as the official currency of the region, with 1 litas being exchanged for 40 pfennig. Until May 20, 1939 inhabitants of the Memorgibiet could exchange litas for Reichsmarks. Soviet occupation. The litas was replaced by the Soviet ruble in April 1941 after Lithuania was annexed by the Soviet Union, with 1 litas equal to 0.9 ruble, although the actual value of the litas was about €5 rubles. Such an exchange rate provided great profits for the military and party officials. Trying to protect the value of the currency, people started to massively buy which, together with a downfall in production, caused material shortages. Withdrawals were then limited to 250 litų cubed before the litas was completely abolished. Coins. Coins were introduced in 1925 in denominations of 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 and 50 centų cubed, 1, 2 and 5 litai, with the litas coins in silver. 10 litų cubed coins were introduced in 1936. All these coins were designed by the sculptor Juozas Zikaras. The litas coins displayed Jonas Basanavičius and Vytautas the Great, which was replaced by a portrait of President Antanas Smetona. Banknotes. In 1922, the Bank of Lithuania issued notes in denominations of 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 and 50 centai, 1, 2, 5, 10, 50 and 100 litų cubed. In 1924, 501,000 litų cubed notes were added. Denominations below 5 litai were replaced by coins in 1925. Second litas, 1993 a euro 2015. The litas became Lithuania's currency once more on June 25, 1993, when it replaced the temporary talonas currency at a rate of 1 litas to 100 talonas. History. Preparatory work. Officials started to prepare for the introduction of the litas even before independence was declared. It was thought to introduce the litas alongside the ruble even if Lithuania remained a part of the Soviet Union. In December 1989, artists were asked to submit sketches of possible coin and banknote designs. Also, a list of famous people was compiled in order to determine who should be featured. The Bank of Lithuania was established on March 1, 1990. 10 days later Lithuania declared independence. At first the Lithuanian government negotiated in vain with Frana Section Noir Charles Obertha, a press located in France to print the banknotes. In November 1990 the Bank of Lithuania decided to work with the United States Banknote Corporation. In late fall, 1991 the first shipments of litas banknotes and coins arrived in Lithuania. In November 1991, the currency issue law was passed and the litas committee was created. It had the power to fix the date for the litas to come into circulation, the terms for the withdrawal from circulation of the ruble, the exchange rate of the litas and other conditions. Officials waited for a while for the economy to stabilize not to expose the young litas to inflation. About 80% of Lithuania's trade was with Russia and the government needed to find a way to smooth the transition from the ruble zone. Also, Lithuania needed to gather funds to form a stabilization fund. Gathering funds. At first, Lithuania did not have gold or any other securities to back up the litas. Lithuania needed to find about $200 million to form the stabilization fund. First, it sought to recover its pre-war gold reserves from France, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, etc. In the interwar period Lithuania stored its gold reserve in foreign banks. After the occupation in 1940 those reserves were a euro oino body a euro unregistered trademarks are euro. There was no Lithuania and most Western countries condemned the occupation as illegal and did not recognize the Soviet Union as a successor. The Bank of England, for example, sold the reserves to the Soviets in 1967. However, in January 1992 it announced that this action was a euro betrayal of the people of the Baltic states a euro and that it would return the originally deposited amount of gold, now worth about £90 million, to the three Baltic states. Lithuania received £18.5 million or 95,000 ounces of gold and remained a customer of the bank. Similarly, in March 1992 Lithuania reclaimed gold from the Bank of France and later from the Bank of Sweden. In October 1992, the International Monetary Fund granted the first loan of $23.05 million to create the Stabilization Fund. However, it is estimated that at the time of the introduction of the new currency, Lithuania managed to gather only $120 million for the Stabilization Fund. For a brief while it was kept a secret so as not to further damage the reputation and trust in of the litas. Delayed introduction of the litas. Lietuvos Rytas journalists investigated the production of the litas and found that for a while it was purposely held back. For example, 6 million litas designated to pay for printing the banknote stayed in a zero-interest bearing account for a year in a bank in Sweden. By 1992, the litas was ready for introduction, but the banknotes were of extremely low quality. Newly elected President Algirdas Brazauskas dismissed the chair of the Bank of Lithuania, Vilius Baldias, for incompetence just 2 months before the introduction of the litas. Baldias was later charged for negligence that cost Lithuania $3 million. Some claim that the Russian secret services were behind the affair. Baldias' euro unregistered trademark explanation was that he was trying to cut the costs of printing the banknotes and thus did not order better security features. Also, a euro OEU's Banknote Corporation a euro was accused of violation of the contract terms. But when the new issue of litas banknotes was redesigned, reprinted, and introduced in June 1993, it was found that the quality of the money was still too low and the banknotes would have to be redesigned further in the future. All these scandals and the small backup of gold reserve damaged the reputation of the litas. The newly appointed chair, Romualdas Vizakavičius, moved things quickly and managed to win the trust of the public. However, in October he was asked to resign mostly because of his involvement with a private bank Litumpex. Introduction of the litas. On June 25, 1993, the litas was finally introduced at the rate of 1 litas to 100 talonas. $1 was worth 4.5 liti and decreased to about 4.2 a couple of weeks later. Even the introduction of the litas was followed by a scandal. The government allowed the changing of unlimited amounts of talonas to the litas without having to show the source of the talonas. This allowed criminal groups to legalize their funds. In July, circulation of the talonas was stopped, and on August 1, 1993, the litas became the only legal tender. Following the reintroduction of the litas, there was an effort to weed out US dollars from the market. The talonas was never really trusted by the people and the ruble was very unstable. Thus, people started using US dollars as a stable currency. Another alternative was the German mark, but it was not available in larger quantities. A lot of shops printed prices in several different currencies, including dollars, and the economy was very dollarized as it was legal to make trades in foreign currencies. Due to poor banknote quality, it was easy to counterfeit them. Most shops were forced to acquire ultraviolet lamps to check for forgeries. One group, for example, printed 500 talonas banknotes in Turkey. It is estimated that their notes totaled 140,000 litas. From April 1, 1994, to February 1, 2002, the litas was pegged to the US dollar at the rate of 4-1. The main reasons for this fixation was little trust in the emerging monetary system, fear of high fluctuations in currency exchange rates, desire to attract foreign investors, and International Monetary Fund recommendations. The peg was renewable every year. For a while a peg was considered to a basket of currencies, the European currency unit. At around this time Lithuania also established a currency board. The litas and the euro. On February 2, 2002, the litas was pegged to the euro at a rate of 3.4528-1. This rate was not expected to change a euro, and indeed did not a euro until the litas was completely replaced by the euro on January 1, 2015. After the peg, Lithuania became a member of the Eurozone de facto. The litas became part of the ERM2 on June 28, 2004. The EU's exchange rate mechanism. The design of Lithuanian euro coins had already been prepared. Lithuania postponed its euro day several times, since the country did not meet the convergence criteria. High inflation. The euro, which reached 11% in October 2008, well above the acceptable limit of 4.2%, a euro contributed to Lithuania's failure to meet the criteria. In 2011, polls showed narrow opposition to the currency. On July 23, 2014, the Council of the European Union adopted a decision allowing Lithuania to adopt the euro as its currency on January 1, 2015. Litas and euro were both legal tender in Lithuania until January 16, 2015. Coins. In 1993, coins were introduced in denominations of 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 and 50 centă cubed, 1, 2 and 5 liti. The 1, 2 and 5 centi pieces were minted in aluminium, the 10, 20 and 50 centă cubed in bronze, and the litas coins were of cupro-nickel. In 1997, nickel brass 10, 20 and 50 centă cubed coins were introduced, followed by cupro-nickel 1 litas and bimetallic 2 and 5 liti in 1998. All had the obverse designs showing the coat of arms in the center and the name of the state Lietuva in capital letters. The first coins were minted in the United Kingdom and arrived in Lithuania on October 31, 1990. Later, all coins were minted in the state-owned enterprise Lithuanian Mint, which started its operations in September 1992 and helped to cut the costs of introducing the litas. Banknotes. In 1993, banknotes were issued in denominations of 1, 2, 5, 10, 20. 50 and 100 liter cubed. Due to poor designs, these were found to be easily copied, and a second series of notes was swiftly introduced in denominations of 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 and 50 liter cubed, with only the 100 liter cube notes of the first series remaining in circulation. 200 liter cube notes were introduced in 1997, followed by 500 litų cubed in 2000. See also Lithuanian euro coins, Lithuanian grammar, noun modification by numeral euro, usage of forms litas, litai, litų cubed, economy of Lithuania. Notes. References. Further reading, documentaries directed by Rimtautas Angstrom Ilnis ir Lietuvos, Banknotai and ir Lietuvos, Monotos, Brona, Vainoskona, Skandlingoji Lietuvos storage, a Euro collection of articles by Lietuvos writers, journalist who spent 6 years investigating the history of the litas in the early years of independence. ISBN 9986-448-12-3. External links: Bank of Lithuania official website, Lithuanian coin catalogue.